just me, but when I was working when the first plane hit, and I was at home. I guess they stood a couple hours before they fell, right? But it was almost as if, like, for some reason, I knew they were going to fall. I don't know if anybody else was sitting there thinking the same thing, like, oh, these buildings are going to come down. And I don't know if maybe it was some sort of predictive subliminal programming they put in the newsreel or whatever, but I just knew, even though thinking back on it, technically it's not possible, for jet fuel to melt steel or whatever, but I just knew they were going to come down, and I wasn't surprised when they did. Now, of course, looking back on it in retrospect, when you're looking at the science of how hot does jet fuel or kerosene burn, and what is the melting point of structural steel, then the whole thing of 9/11 falls apart. So that begs the question: if what they're telling us isn't the true story, then A, why are they lying, and B, who really did it? And the best way, then police use this a lot, the best way to tell who is responsible for something is to determine who profited from it. And of course, with PNAC, Project for the New American Century, we had they already stated they wanted a new Pearl Harbor if George W. Bush got elected, and they got exactly that within the first year, or within the first few months of his presidency, right? And so at that point, it's almost impossible for people to think that maybe some part of our government is responsible for this in order to get us all riled up to go to war with Iraq, who had nothing to do with it, right? And so they use these sort of events, which seem credible at first, and then under closer inspection, it's all a bunch of crap, like the moon landing. But their mission was already accomplished. Even though we know that Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction now, even though we know that the Twin Towers didn't come down as they say in the mainstream narrative, it's done. The deal's done. We're still in a never-ending war on terrorism. And so in order to change things, we've got to, and I don't even want to say we, because I think it's beyond any one person's capability, but hopefully with the help of God, maybe we can get rid of entities like NASA, the Federal Reserve, all these other blood-sucking, misinformation agencies that we're paying for. And all they're doing is confusing us and leading us down, leading us by the nose to wherever they want us to believe. And that's the best thing about being a flat earther is it really puts everything else into perspective. I mean, once you realize that NASA was lying and the Earth is actually flat, then really the veil is lifted, man. Anything's possible, and you're going to be more skeptical and scientifically minded about everything that's presented to you. And so, I agree, like with what you said, that flat Earth is connected to all of this because it's the largest deception of them all. Every single deception that's ever occurred has occurred on Earth, and so once you get this one out of the way, really anything's possible.